18 years old, filled with dreams and aspirations. Marioara Rostas, a young Romanian woman, arrived in Ireland in December 2007, seeking a better life with her family. Little did she know her journey would be tragically cut short. Marioara's family, part of the Roma community, faced challenges even before arriving in Ireland. They established a makeshift camp near the M50 motorway in Ballymun, North Dublin, highlighting deep-seated prejudices. Despite the challenges, Marioara's family persevered, clinging to the hope of a brighter future. Marioara's story took a dark turn in January 2008. Lured by the promise of fast money and a meal at McDonald's, she vanished from a Dublin street. The police investigation was slow to start, hampered by language barriers and a lack of understanding of the Roma community. The Roma community has long been subjected to discrimination and prejudice across Europe, and Ireland is no exception. Their nomadic lifestyle and struggles with poverty have often been met with suspicion and hostility. In Ireland, the arrival of Roma families has been met with mixed reactions. Some have welcomed their presence, advocating for their rights, while others have expressed concerns fueled by stereotypes and misinformation. This climate of suspicion has created significant barriers for Roma families seeking to integrate into Irish society. The case of Marioara Rostas tragically highlights the vulnerability of the Roma community in Ireland. In crime reporting, a hierarchy dictates which cases capture the public's imagination. Certain murders, often involving victims who fit a specific profile, dominate headlines. This selective focus comes at a cost. Countless other murders, those that don't fit the big murder criteria, are relegated to the shadows. Marioara Rostas, a young Roma woman, did not fit the mold of a big murder victim. Her disappearance did not spark widespread outrage or prompt calls for justice. January 6, 2008, a cold, grey Monday afternoon in Dublin. Marioara, just a teenager, found herself on the bustling streets of the city centre with her brother, begging for money. A silver Ford Mondeo pulled up beside them, a figure inside beckoning them closer. Inside the car sat Alan Wilson, a known criminal. He offered Marioara and her brother easy money and a trip to McDonald's. Marioara's brother, wary, stayed put as his sister got into the car. It was the last time he would see her alive. Vanished without a trace, the initial investigation, the Rostas family reported Marioara missing to the Gardaí, the Irish police. Language barriers and cultural differences hampered communication, leading to misunderstandings and delays. The Roma community, often wary of law enforcement, were hesitant to fully cooperate. Days turned into weeks and the trail ran cold. The initial media coverage was scant, reflecting a lack of public interest in the disappearance of a young immigrant woman. Whispers and rumours. The Roma community's search for answers. The Roma community refused to let Marioara's disappearance fade into obscurity. They launched their own search, relying on their close-knit networks. Whispers of Marioara's disappearance spread through the Roma community. Stories circulated, painting a grim picture of what might have befallen her. The Roma community, distrustful of the Gardaí, began their own inquiries. A glimmer of hope. The discovery at Kipure. For 3 long years, Marioara Rostas' fate remained a mystery. Then, in January 2012, a man searching for a missing deer stumbled upon a chilling sight, a partially buried human skeleton. The Gardaí, alerted to the discovery, descended upon the scene. Forensic experts meticulously combed the area. Dental records confirmed the remains were indeed those of Marioara. Her discovery only deepened the mystery surrounding her tragic fate. Building the case, the evidence against Alan Wilson. The discovery of Marioara's remains breathed new life into the investigation. The Gardaí focused on Alan Wilson, the man last seen with Marioara. They pieced together a case against Wilson, relying on forensic evidence, witness testimony, and phone records. Witnesses provided crucial pieces of the puzzle. The evidence pointed towards Wilson as the perpetrator of a heinous crime. Justice delayed, justice denied. In 2014, Alan Wilson stood trial for Marioara's murder. The prosecution presented a compelling case detailing the evidence against Wilson. The defense argued that the evidence was circumstantial and the witnesses unreliable. The trial lasted for weeks, the courtroom filled with tension. After deliberating for 3 days, the jury returned with a verdict, not guilty. The verdict highlighted the complexities of the case and the challenges of securing a conviction based on circumstantial evidence. A society's selective outrage, the disparity in media attention. The acquittal of Alan Wilson sent shockwaves through the Rostas family and the Roma community. Marioara's case never quite captured the public's imagination the way certain other murder cases had. These big murders often dominated headlines and sparked public rallies. In contrast, Marioara's story remained largely confined to the margins of public consciousness. This disparity in attention raises uncomfortable questions about whose lives we value more and whose suffering we are more readily moved to address. The forgotten victims when justice sleeps. Marioara's case is not an isolated incident. It shines a light on a systemic issue, the often overlooked plight of victims from marginalized communities. When individuals from these communities disappear or are murdered, their cases are often met with indifference. Their stories relegated to the back pages of newspapers or fleeting mentions in evening news bulletins. This lack of attention can have a devastating impact on the pursuit of justice. Without the pressure of public scrutiny, investigations can stall, leads can run cold, and perpetrators can escape accountability. The families of victims are left to grapple not only with their loss, but also with the agonizing realization that their loved ones' lives were deemed less worthy of justice. This disparity in justice is compounded by the systemic biases that permeate law enforcement and the judicial system. Language barriers, cultural differences, and a lack of understanding of the unique challenges faced by marginalized communities can hinder investigations and prevent victims from receiving a fair trial. The forgotten victims, their stories untold, their lives cut short, serve as a stark reminder of the work that remains to be done to create a truly just and equitable society, one where every life is valued and every voice is heard. The power and limitations of media shaping public perception. The media, often referred to as the Fourth Estate, plays a crucial role in shaping public perception and influencing the course of justice. It has the power to amplify marginalized voices, shine a light on injustices, and hold those in power accountable. However, it can also perpetuate harmful stereotypes, reinforce existing biases, and contribute to a skewed understanding of crime and victimhood. In cases like Marioara's, the media's lack of sustained attention reflects a broader societal blind spot. The stories of victims from marginalized communities often fail to penetrate the dominant narrative, their experiences deemed less relatable or less deserving of empathy. This selective focus can have far-reaching consequences. It can perpetuate the dehumanization of certain groups, making it easier for society to turn a blind eye to their suffering. It can also create a climate of impunity, where perpetrators of crimes against marginalized individuals feel emboldened, knowing that their actions are less likely to attract significant attention or condemnation. The media has a responsibility to critically examine its own biases and strive for a more inclusive and nuanced portrayal of crime and victimhood. By giving voice to the voiceless, challenging stereotypes, and holding those in power accountable, the media can play a transformative role in creating a more just and equitable society. The anatomy of a big murder. What makes headlines? Not all murders are created equal in the eyes of the media and the public. Some cases grip the nation, dominating headlines, while others fade into obscurity. We are drawn to certain narratives, certain faces, certain types of suffering. What elevates a murder to big murder status, capturing national attention? Common threads weave through the tapestry of tragedy that captivates us. Victims are often young, white, and female, their stories tapping into primal fears. Circumstances surrounding the murder shape public perception. Random, senseless, or brutal crimes ignite public outrage and media frenzy. the perceived threat to ordinary citizens amplifies the horror. The media shapes narratives, influencing public opinion and dictating attention. A big murder is often accompanied by relentless reporting and emotional interviews. Beyond the headlines, the human cost of indifference. While the big murders dominate our screens and fuel countless hours of news coverage, countless other tragedies unfold in the shadows, their victims denied the same level of attention, empathy, and ultimately justice. These forgotten victims, often from marginalized communities or whose stories fail to conform to the established narrative, are relegated to the periphery, their lives and deaths reduced to mere footnotes in the annals of crime. The consequences of this indifference are far-reaching and devastating. For the families of forgotten victims, the pain of loss is compounded by the agonizing knowledge that their loved one's life was deemed less worthy of attention, their story unworthy of being told. The pursuit of justice, already an arduous journey, becomes even more challenging as investigations stall, leads run cold, and perpetrators remain at large, emboldened by a system that seems to have forgotten the very people it is meant to protect. Beyond the immediate impact on families, the lack of attention given to certain cases has broader societal implications. It perpetuates a dangerous hierarchy of victimhood where some lives are deemed more valuable than others, their stories more deserving of our time, our outrage, and our tears. This selective empathy creates a climate of inequality, where certain communities are rendered invisible, their suffering minimized, their cries for justice ignored. Bridging the gap towards a more equitable pursuit of justice. Achieving a just society requires a shift in how we perceive and respond to crime. We must confront biases and acknowledge systemic inequalities in our justice system. Every life lost to violence should be treated with dignity, every story heard. This change begins with awareness and education. We must educate ourselves about systemic factors and challenge implicit biases. Demand responsible media reporting that gives equal weight to all victims. Hold law enforcement and judicial systems accountable for fair justice. Empathy, compassion, and commitment are essential for honoring every life lost to violence. A legacy of loss, a call for change. The tragic and still unresolved case of Marioara Rostas serves as a chilling reminder of the human cost of indifference and the systemic inequalities that permeate our society. Her story, though unique in its details, reflects a broader pattern of marginalization, prejudice, and injustice faced by countless individuals and communities across the globe. Her disappearance, the stalled investigation, the lack of public outcry, and the eventual acquittal of her alleged killer exposed the cracks in our justice system and the often unspoken biases that shape our collective response to crime. Marioara's legacy, however, extends beyond the confines of her tragic fate. Her story, though steeped in sorrow, has the power to ignite conversations, challenge assumptions, and inspire meaningful change. By confronting the uncomfortable truths her case reveals, we can begin to dismantle the systems of oppression that render certain lives invisible and create a more just and equitable world for all. This journey towards justice begins with acknowledging the humanity of every victim, regardless of their background, their circumstances, or the level of media attention their case attracts. It requires us to confront our own biases, challenge harmful stereotypes, and amplify the voices of those who have been silenced for far too long. It demands a fundamental shift in how we perceive and respond to crime, moving beyond the sensationalism that often dominates headlines and embracing a more nuanced understanding of the complex factors that contribute to violence and injustice. It requires a collective commitment to holding our institutions accountable, demanding transparency, fairness, and an unwavering dedication to serving and protecting all members of society. Remembering Marioara, honoring the forgotten victims. Marioara Rostas was more than a statistic, more than a headline, more than a symbol of injustice. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, with dreams and aspirations, tragically cut short. Her family has endured unimaginable pain, their grief compounded by a lack of closure. Their resilience stands as a testament to the enduring power of love and hope. Marioara's story carries a message of hope, a call to action for a more just world. Let us remember Marioara for her spirit of resilience and belief in a brighter future.